Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I'm reviewing the HP Omen 30L. Now this is HP's top-of-the-line pre-built in terms of the configuration sent over, which you will see the specifications for shortly. And at a little over $3,800, this is an expensive machine, but if you tried to build this 4K gaming beast with any other builder, you'd be looking at upwards of $5,000 to $6,000. So keep that in mind as I take you through this long-term review. So the star of the show, of course, is Nvidia's RTX 3090. This is an OEM card that you see braced with a bracket. I think it's a good idea. It is a beefy card. Only one PCI Express slot on this motherboard. I'll get to that a little bit later in the review. And I believe the GPU is manufactured by Foxconn for HP. In addition to that, of course, we've got a solid 10-core Intel CPU. It is 10th gen. 11th gen CPU should be coming soon, but you don't need to spec out as high as what HP sent over. That's the beauty of the 30L. You can take it all the way down to a budget system. It's really a matter of what you plan on doing with this pre-built. So let's take a look at the specifications sent over. Again, this is an i9 10850K. You can go as low as an i5 all the way up to a 10900K, 64 gigs of HyperX DDR4 3200 RGB RAM. HP does own HyperX, a Western Digital 1TB black NVMe. That's only one. You can do a secondary NVMe drive if you choose to. You can set them up in RAID. And we have a 750 watt power supply as well as a Wi-Fi 6 card on board, which I do recommend if you plan on doing anything in a wireless capacity. So who is this build for? Well, if like me, you want to game in 4K and Ultra in any game, on my 27-inch Asus to the left right there, that is a 4K 144 Hz 1000 nit true HDR monitor, the master monitor from years ago. That is going to be easily achieved with a machine like this. Thermals aren't perfect, but HP has come a long way when it comes to cooling. If you just look back one generation, you can easily see the tremendous difference. Plus, we do now have tool-free access to the case, really easy to get in there and make any upgrades. If you do want to add additional hard drives, meaning literal mechanical drives, HP gives you that option for 2 additional hard disk drives. You can do that yourself. The BIOS is locked on this motherboard, something important to note. And as I mentioned before, upgradability is possible. I don't want to pretend it's amazing though. The RTX 3090 right there, we've got some cooling as I take you through the case. The Cooler Master 120 mil fan there with RGB, then the 64 gigs of dual channel HyperX RGB, and then that liquid cooling. I don't believe HP's done this in the past, at least not recently, and that 750 watt Cooler Master power supply. And then of course that 1TB Western Digital NVMe drive with heatsink, and then below it is the secondary slot for yet another NVMe drive. And then the Wi-Fi 6 card is buried right where I'm pointing now under the 3090. But, you know, overall, there's quite a bit of upgradability here if you don't fully spec it out. The cable management is tight. It's not beautiful, but it's clean. And that's what you expect from a pre-built. And I think HP has delivered on that. Now, I've mentioned cooling could be better here. The power supply, I wish HP gave us a higher wattage option for a build like this. 750 is just making it with a 3090. Really a CPU GPU combo like this. But that Cooler Master fan and the fan with the in the front with the addressable RGB, a nice touch. The Omen logo, a nice touch. The beauty here is if you don't want the RGB lighting, you can of course turn it all off. So at 35 pounds roughly, this is a compact tower. I think HP understood that not everyone wants something giant, even if they want something that's incredibly powerful. And remember, it's nearly impossible to build a system, not just this year, but last year as well, with the shortage on RTX 3000 series GPUs. So we take a look at the top, really clean, minimalist design, lots of ventilation. And then the first thing on the right side is the power button. Then to the left of that, we've got our microphone jack as well as our headphone jack, and then 2 Type A USB ports. Good I/O for the front, But this is something that you'll know whether or not it's going to work for you. As we take a look at the back, the first thing, top right, is the button that permits you to eject, again, tool-free, the entire side panel glass. Then we have a Kensington lock, that fan that is key to the operation. I/O includes, of course, audio jacks, Ethernet, 6 Type-A USB ports, as well as a Type-C port. And then the RTX 3090 has an HDMI 2.1 and 3 display ports out. 8K is doable here, but 4K 120 is what you're really after. And then, of course, the male connector for the 750 watt power supply, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a Cooler Master. So I think the component list here is really solid. I think the look of the case is also really well done. Again, if you want to game in 4K at Ultra with pretty much any title, this system is going to do it. If you want to edit video, again, 4K, you're not going to have a problem with the 3090. Now, I also mentioned that thermals could be better. And this is the time to talk about it as we go through some benchmarking. So with Firmark, things were stable for over 25 minutes. I expected that though, and this is edited down. The next thing you're going to see is Cinebench. Also, inside of Cinebench, the CPU, obviously, it's a 10th gen chip. It's going to do perfectly fine. And the results are there if you actually want to pause it and look at the multi and single scores, you can. This is a benchmarking beast, no question about it. But what is holding it back, again, thermal performance. If you really want to get the most out of this, you're going to want to undervolt. Remember, the BIOS is locked. The motherboard is really my only point of contention besides the thermals with this system. Under heavy load, it will get loud, no question about it. And obviously adding fans to it, which is something you might want to do, will only make this case louder. But it still performs incredibly well, and as I've stated, if you were to put together these parts with any boutique build that doesn't, in some cases, some of those boutiques don't have the reputation of HP, certainly don't have the accidental warranty coverage that is refundable if you don't end up utilizing it, then you're going to be spending at least, I think, around $5,000. Now in Time Spy here, 3D Mark, scores ranged anywhere from the score you're about to see, which is a little under 17,000, all the way up to 20,000. And this again will depend on how willing you are to undervolt and really overclock this system and try to max it out. But again, 4K, 120 hertz or higher, ultra gaming, easy peasy when it comes to this build of the 30L. The 1 terabyte Western Digital black drive is, of course, a best-in-class performer. You can spec it up to a 2 terabyte per HP. You can go all the way down to a generic 256 if you want to save the money and throw your own drive in there. So options are definitely a good thing to have. HP's Omen software allows you to, of course, see performance as well as overclock. Nothing too crazy. The addressable RGB lighting, they have a beta, which you're looking at now, which is kind of a AutoCAD look at the lighting, which is pretty cool. And it gives you flexibility if RGB lighting is your thing. Fan profiles also are there. HyperX lighting on the RGB RAM, also addressable. Right now, there is an issue with that, which you may have seen the message. It did work in the past. I assume it will work in the future. Overall, a really clean system. There is a little bit of bloatware in there, a VPN piece of software, as well as some antivirus, easily uninstalled. So really, at the end of the day, this is a phenomenal pre-built in my own opinion. And again, this is not a sponsored video, not paid in any form or fashion. And I think that HP has come a really long way. If, like me, you remember Voodoo, the original Omen, you see some of the design language there, and you see HP making a really affordable, powerful gaming machine that also can handle any other task thrown at it. The only thing I would like to see in the future, which I think is more than plausible, is HP giving us more options when it comes to the motherboard. That may be tougher than other things because we only have a single PCI Express slot, which of course is occupied by the 3090, which means adding something like Thunderbolt is not a possibility, which is something I would love. And I would love to see better overall thermal performance and of course a higher wattage option for the power supply. But otherwise, again, try building a system like this here in 2021 for the price. It is impossible. I mean, people are buying these systems to strip them and rebuild them. I'm not recommending that. I think the majority of people that buy this will be more than pleased with the performance without even beginning to tinker with it. I do recommend picking up the extended warranty, but that pretty much wraps things up. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.